Hey Dan, my name is Misha Kelly. I'm doing a quick video. I'm an ascended master, spiritual teacher, and all sorts of stuff. I just want to talk today about mental problems and how they really bind on us and how they can really contract to us and how they can really cause us to be down. I don't feel they're the biggest problem in the world though, which is why I feel that things like the Mental Health Act in Ireland can be really conciliatory. That means all the sergeants and the agents and everyone have to get out to discussion, notionalise the arrangement of someone getting put away after out of hand. I don't think it's the most biggest problem in the world, the most omniscible kind of tantacity. Someone's trying to take omniscible off me for some reason with their language phone from behind me here. God, if that's you, can you step away, please? Basically, mental health problems occur when we have emotional problems. It's not to say we don't have mental problems isolated within the mind, but this is to do with our mental functum. I'm hearing a lot from people to do it that they're involved in psychiatry, that they lost the ability of insight. This is what I've heard lately. It means you could possibly go inside your own being and look around for yourself, what's going on within yourself. But the fact that other people have access in there is a bit sick if you don't have your own access. And this is really something that needs to be highlighted. That people should govern themselves, should know themselves. That means know thyself. And that also means that people shouldn't allow cowardly behaviour come on where people think they can ransack or ransage your personal space and evolve or devolve or ascend or descend thoughts within yourself. This is your personal space. You should know it as your own. You shouldn't have anyone come in and fruitishly or foolishly mess with it, like. And that means psychiatry's gone over the boundaries on billions, if not millions, of occasions, far too many times for my liking, and especially in my case where I'm in an institution, again, for the ninth time. This will be 7 times involuntary and twice voluntary. Every time I fight it, they let me go home. Eventually, this has been a 9 to 10 week stint for me this time. Last week it was 6 weeks. On other occasions, it was 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and 10 weeks. So there's been many times where I've been forced into hospital against my will, and it's always your parent, man, we need to treat you. And I'll debate what you need to treat. Well, you have an illness. What I'm asking you where to point out this illness is. And then they have no argument. I say, I want an argument for this, or I want to debate for this, And then you just don't start shouting, get the security kind of thing, or get the big guys kind of thing, And it's just vindictive, bully like mentality that's really sad and really silly in today's age where we've really come a long way with all our technologies and all our advancements. And it's sad to say that we're stooping back down in certain behavioral like patterns and types like this, that individuals are refusing to grow up. And when you have childlike behaviour like that in grown adults, it is a sad state of affairs when they work such responsibilities, whereas they have such responsibilities. And if I'm in here under the duty care of individuals, I understand, but it means they have to act responsible. It's not good sugaring around or fooling around all the time. You have to really take the hem here and say, right, I'm caring for you, I will care for you. That's what's expected, for the people who do come in here. I don't particularly want to come in here, I don't particularly need it, I don't think I felt I've ever needed it. But at the same time, for the vulnerable people coming from society, where there's a hearsay, I'm not saying it's a fact or not, but the fact that I heard that 13 people were in the suicidal position or had committed suicide in this region or in this hospital in the last couple of years is a very sad state of affairs. This is where we all need to become conscious of. When someone commits suicide, they are in grave levels of pain. I don't like the word suicide. Sua. Sua in Irish means the verbal of she. Shia. It's not sua. Sua means to go somewhere with the female, you see. So suicide, that could be translated as that, but suicide, side. Side could mean like sayonara, see you later. So suicide means to see you later to a female as well, it could also be interpreted as. And for it to be interpreted in this moment during my dialectics, it means that a lot of men are saying good luck to women their own way by saying I'm committing suicide. And it's a really sad state of affair in the world today that people need to become conscious of, and especially the female if you can. I know females are bountiful, they're beautiful, they're doubtlessly the most admirable and sought after things by man in this world, but it means the depletion of the human species in this level where it's becoming not just a depletion but in a painful manner or others where families and friends will mourn. I think people have to take more responsibility for actions in this regard. That's my opinion. In terms of what I'm going to talk about, the tip I have today is for psychological illness is if you can withdraw into your own mind and think of how many demons you have there. People might refer to them as demons. They might be just other people might present them as problems. Sometimes they present as problems. Sometimes our mind can become convoluted, and that means we get stuck. And it's like a bottle of 7 Up or a bottle of Coke. You close the cap in it. That's all that's going on there. Really, for most people with mental problems that are condensed within our minds. It means we can become oversized or over. That means oversized would be an egotistical thing. It means our egos get blown up out of proportion. We can go on a rampage mission, and that doesn't mean violently. It means we can go drinking or jaunting or driving or anything else it is, and we can end up somewhere nefarious or negative, but we can get into negative territory if we're not careful. And that's to say that we can pick up all sorts of ideas within our head, and if we pick up one idea and intimidate it, this is a specific boundary that people cross. It's notice, I would say. but that people can go across without selecting it basically. Whereas you can be in a position where this is one, and this is a specific lesson people need to learn, where you're in a position where you might feel slightly intimidated, and someone might inject an idea into your mind on a very linear level, and by that I mean subconscious linear. And even at that, I've started to use the word obconscious lately because that's designed more towards Irish dialect. Obconscious is a word I've started to use lately. You might hear it. But the point is, someone might say something slightly antagonistic, slightly rude, or slightly demeaning towards you, and it can grow and inflate as a fear over the course of several weeks, several months, or several years. People call these demons. They call them. That's what I mean. People will emphasize their externalization of these notions outside themselves as realities when they get so extreme. And this is what they call mental health problems. These can be adapted from self-care. You don't need to go into a hospital for these cares. I don't like the health service earning billions off the public health funds. I'm not in politics or government or finance, or I don't even have a job, so it's a bit rich of me to say you're right. But at the same time, I have concern for these places. I don't want to see the country continue to go broke when apparently they got rid of the OIP's affairs. There was a strike about what they weren't going to beat them up. But what were they going to do? Beat them up? Really, OIPs, old age pensioners? They were going to beat up the government. You know, people should be able to speak their voice. I'm going to speak my voice and say public funds being wasted in certain places. And I'm of the impression, for example, in this hospital they get £4,000 for each Valium, for each Vandent. I think that's the name the injections come in for each portion of injections they give out. They get £4,000 between the nurses. I also heard one got a £50,000 award for something else, £10,000 reward for something else. They're giving us these big cash awards for the work they do. I mean, these drugs are making people unconscious. They're making people distilled, and they're inhibiting people's own right to look within themselves and know for themselves what's going on within themselves, which is the ultimate learning curve each person should thoroughly and truly go through. And that's why any discourse is just something you can learn at home. Anyone can sit in their home and learn. I don't like the notion of me being drawn into my home to go to the hospital. Why should anyone else? Realistic is how I see it, but some people do actually enjoy it. So each their own in that regard. Secondly, when these demons grow, it means they can overpower us in occasions. They can become more powerful than us. People fear Satan. People fear Jehovah or whatever else demon name you want to put on this stuff. But it's often fear of the family member that gives us the hardest time. This is what it boils down to in Irish society. But this means that we can hate them and hate them and hate them. And I had a story in a guy in here where he claimed that he stabbed his father. I'm not going to mention his name, but he claimed that he stabbed his father after fighting for years on end. So this meant there was a lot of action and a lot of intensity, but tension in the environment, which led to an actual physical alteration. This is what we try to avoid more than anything, you know. Out of the depth of our hearts and out of love, we don't really want to fight with anybody. And I speak on behalf of the whole Irish nation when I say that wholeheartedly. Apparently there's warriors going around, apparently I'm a warrior, all this stuff is going on. But people can make any actuation and acclination they want, but it shouldn't be for anyone to interfere with, unless it's really hurtful and really harmful. Then you question as a society. But the hospitals don't work on behalf of the society, they work on behalf of their own goals. And that's the reason I'd say I've healed so many patients and so many people and get their own medals and get their own awards. You know, each person works for their own awards. So I don't see why I should be forced into a hospital at the expense of other people earning their awards and me not earning my awards, so to speak, because I can't do half the effective work I do. As a spiritual master, a spiritual teacher anyway, I'm not going to go as far as to call myself a spiritual master, but a spiritual teacher outside the hospitals that can in. But in saying that, I'm learning in my own spiritual teaching method that I am learning from being in the hospital. And that's to kind of put pins in this place, because a lot of people haven't done in these places in a sense of feeling harmed and feeling mistreated and feeling undone, in the sense that you feel your rhetoric and your mentality has been changed to come into places like this. And I'm going to bring up the cult religion like church psychiatry right now, which means that you're trying to alter my thoughts to your superstitions that I'm crazy and psychotic and schizophrenic and psychotic and paranoid schizophrenic. I deny all these accusations because they're all thoughts at the end of the day. They don't affect me that badly. But at the end of the day, people reiterate them, put them in paper. I consider them slanderous comments towards my mental health, towards my not just my actual mental health. If you want to acclimatise it to it, I would call my brain or my mind my acclimatization zone for everybody. It really is, where we get to know yourselves and get to know our thoughts and everything else. And this can be abrupt for some people. For most people, it's homely. Most people get by fine, as far as I can tell. But a lot of people have issues with intervening thoughts, interluding thoughts, projected thoughts, but also intermissal thoughts is what I call them, where you feel your thoughts are being kind of interfered with. And this is often in a community where people are hyper conscious or super conscious. They can become elevated with the waves of consciousness that are coming in the 21st century. This new wave of light that I've been talking in some of my pyramid videos. And basically it's the notion that people want to suppress you out of their own fun and games, which is a bit sad and sick. But this is what will lead to mental health deterioration. But the point is, your mind is meant to deteriorate so the body, so it's good to exhaust both the body and the mind at the same time. This is how we can maintain healthiness. I, for myself, have slept 3 nights here, really struggling to sleep. That is, I'm sorry for not having to calm my face all along. The point is, when these things grow in our minds, all it is to defeat them within ourselves. And that's for me for psychiatry. Every time it builds up within me, I have to defeat it as a personal battle. And each person has their own battles as it is and doesn't need to confine and confide within and not necessarily confidential resource. They're writing papers and doctorates on you. This guy wants to write a doctorate in one of the works I presented to him through my challenging of the system, as far as I know. But I said, no, if it involves me, you don't let me research it. Because I don't know what he's working for. Psychiatry as a business, as an advocate. I don't believe in psychiatry advocates anything other than unmental wellness. And that is the reason that on a molecular level, if we are, science suggests, we are built up on trillions of cells. If you have one cell that is of, say, you have unhealthy thoughts and ideas, they could develop on the cellular level where we think about them. We have these like thought bubbles coming out of our head. So you just imagine that for a moment. It's like someone you think, psychosis, schizophrenia, you think they're negative thoughts, don't you? They sound negative, they have negative connotations, including psycho and schizo behind them. So these are often tarnishes against the human being, as far as I'm concerned. And this is the tip of the iceberg and how much we tarnish each other at the end of the day, isn't it really though? When you think about it, if anyone was ever trying to slant at you, you think, how dare you insult me? Why do you insult me? And it can play out for weeks and months with ideas stuck in your head. Until you come to conclusion and resolution with that, you won't find peace. Full on cleansed peace, which is a very natural and neutral but unoppressive thing to do. It's a very natural, rewarding thing to do, is what I want to say. To find peace within ourselves. We have unequivocal peace. We're completely happy. There's no problem. But that's not always the case when people interrupt us with some of ours, with their letters, got the clinics, and whatever else it is. I won't get into it. But the point is, when we have negative thoughts in our minds, like what the ones I feel psychiatry put into our minds, such as the ones I've labelled, it means we get controlled by the idea itself, and that means we become the idea itself, and that means it grows within us. And this is what I call the dissemination of the virus into us. And this is getting to the fundamentals of where all language originated from man. If you believe consciousness, or the first time consciousness, if there was one, it means that basically if there was a neutral zone that everything sprang into like a big bang, that means that it sprang into here and now, that the Big Bang isn't that far away. We can look at the time and space in between, we know it's history. If you believe in God, you can call him God, but it deteriorates your knowledge associated with God as well, because it damages the brain, it damages the frontal lobe, it damages my memory. Some days I go without remembering a damn thing because of these drugs, and it gets aggressive as well. When they give you the drugs, I don't want them, so I get aggressive. And it's not that I want to get aggressive, it's the aggression I feel that I have to tackle off. So I want that understood as well. And when I get abusive, it's because it's the level of abuse I feel you're giving the body. You're making my body fat, overweight, and lazy and lethargic, and I don't know what genuine, what you're putting into it. And also, I'd like to question how they're getting away with breaking such laws. There's such hypocrisy in a ruling society like this, which there's not many rules apparently, in the sense that most of us get away with what we get away with. And I'm going to say that much in the Irish society, we're quite good to each other. We want to look after each other, and most of us are big families we can rely on. But in saying that as well, it's not that it's necessary or we want to. It's to say that why the big organisations and big hospitals get away with such obscenities when it's not wanted by some people, And there's a large tract of people that say I'd rather not admit psychiatry. I'm one of them. I remember in 2012 I felt perfectly fine, and they mentioned psychiatry and my head just rolled and said, oh, no fucking way, excuse the language for now. You please have to excuse that now, but my sincerity and my extreme vulnerability for myself and how others would care for it or could care for it could come into equation, battles that in an instant. And I regret using that now. It seems like we're presentable enough video up to that point. The point is, when we have these ideas in our head, it's a matter of sitting down and writing them out. And it's easy through meditation as well to clear our minds. And it's not so hard that you can look into your mind and you find something. If you have trouble with it, pierce it. Just like you put a pin through a hole. Imagine your eyesight piercing these ideas. Pierce them and see how big they are to you. And that means any opponent you have in your life that's far away, especially if you're intimidated by a phenomenal foe. That means a man who's bigger than you. That's often the fear for people, the man who's bigger than you. I've learned to stand up to many big men because I know they're only as big as they're made out within themselves, and that's how you get to know your true stature and your true scale within yourself. Though, when you want to grow and evolve, and you know yourself as the universe, you know your true scale. Some might even say you know your true invincibility. And I'm not saying invisibility, I'm saying invincibility, and that's not to get contrived here and measured up here or anything like that. I'm just saying the level of development you can go through in benefit and the lack of harm of people, and for the natural and maturization of the human being to go through. So we're equal, we're one, we're composed, we're together, we're clear. So that comes along together. That's what I fight for more than anything. Just to think I'm out looking for fights every day. I'm not, like, I really am the type that would do that. And now that's just to reinstate the notion that came across there. So, and clear it up basically. But the point is, when it comes to sterilization of the human being, which is what I firmly come across as what psychiatry is for, the dissemination of random vicarious thoughts, and they accuse the patient of that. The stern outer abuse that you get if you don't want to leave the hospital, they don't allow you to leave, leading to a physical altercation. They accuse physical altercation of being somewhat camaraderie or a threat to us other people. So there's all these hypnotic kind of dissolutive thoughts that are quite ironic and hypocritical in their own way. But I'm hoping the table to turn soon, where you see psychiatry what it is, and you see the innocent so-called patient for what it is. And the reason I say so-called patient is because you have to be so patient to go through this service. It's not even funny. Because I would say there's no cure to psychiatry, to the illness that they have born within you. Because I've been diagnosed with psychosis, and I've requested to be undiagnosed. This is where the battle takes place. I've requested to be undiagnosed, but he refuses to undiagnose in his own way. So he wants that label stuck in my head, which is my personal space, which under the Constitution of Ireland is a form of bodily harm. But in the other slide, we're going to come back to the teaching a little bit and say that when thoughts interrupt us, don't let them be interruptions in the sense that they're interruptors. Let them be little fairies coming to us with God's guiding messages. We should learn to interpret each thought and each idea and each new conundrum as somewhere we can follow or somewhere we can go, which will be for our benefit. This is not what a lot of people might not realise. And it's the same way you might think I'll go to a haircut, I'll go to the hairdresser. He didn't treat me last well time. I suspect he ripped me off. Just as I hear Sarah say, and you think, no, I won't go to the hairdresser. But think about going back there and making peace and asking the right questions. So you're not put out of your comfort zone, so you enjoy your environment, and so you're welcome where you live. I'm getting more of this dub Kildare rhetoric in here today. I'm a dub that's at peace with the whole country, with the whole continent, with the whole planet, with the whole universe, with the whole cosmos. I don't look my nose down up Kildare for that reason, because I see it all as equal. I was born and grown and raised up that way, but it made sense to me to see it as that. It's not like some brainwashing service was employed over me when I was a kid, but it's a corroborative service to know that I try to get along with everyone. And in saying that, I feel everyone can learn from that same skin to get along with everybody where there's a lot of war and conflict. And that's what we hold together in Ireland. It's one of our most prized joys, that we have peace in our public for 86 years or something. More now, it's 2021. We're talking, that would have been 1950s. Yeah, so unless there was actually action in World War II, we're talking, and it's possible there was, because that's my automatic insinuation there, reading off the eye. And basically, if we have peace for long periods of time, it means flourishment. If we look at ourselves or anybody else's little flowers growing in the garden, it means you want to flourish, and that's to look beautiful, it's to act beautiful, and it's to be beautiful. And that's truly what life wants for us, and it's to acknowledge not our foes externally, but our foes internally, such as our digestive system not being healthy enough, and the foods we particularly like. And it's to make sure we don't put on, I'm going to say this, I can't say this really, I'm sorry, I can't say this part, but it's to make sure that we exercise and diet, and we look after ourselves, and it's to make sure that we don't make sure financially we're stable, so we're not broke at the end of the week looking for money off other people. It's these little things that can make a difference at the end of a life, where someone truly sees you as a captivity or a capsizer or a captain, if you catch my drift, in life, where you feel proud to know someone. There's a lot of people I've discounted, like I've been discounted by a few people. You say, right, we'll cut the cord, then we see how it goes. But sometimes life brings you back together with people to learn more. And that's what people don't understand. They keep blaming life, blaming that person, blaming the other. There's a greater force at work through all the universe than any individual, as far as I'm concerned. And it's called a collective. In this planet, I'd call it the collective, but I'm not even talking about the divine or anything. I'm talking about the collective force that is. And that would renounce between reiterations, and I'll give you one example, is pub groups. Pub groups may go out and get into fights, they may drink a lot, and they may fall asleep on the road, or they may get hit by cars, or they may drink drive. This brings up a whole rhetoric within a society where you say this is a bad group, but an individual there might upskate it or downscate it. That means they may speak for it or against it. And if you have a whole problem where you've met in another town or another group, say where you got into a fight with a lot of guys, and someone says, I love that town, or I love that guy, and a whole conflict might break out within the individual because the association is there of what they've gone through. This breaks into trauma, and even psychological episodes can be quite traumatic because they can put us into fear when we're in isolation. So I can see the point of psychiatric institutions. I can see them venturing on, but at the same time, I feel there's a fundamental change needs to come where we look after ourselves fundamentally as many people as possible. I understand it's further vulnerable. I'm not going to challenge either, but I for one don't feel that vulnerable. But people may see me as being vulnerable on occasion and know the difference. So there you go. I'm outcasting that as well. And in saying that, when we tackle our inner demons, rather than take the drugs, what I really want to get at, because I don't know the side effects of the drugs, nor do I know what's in them. What someone said to me today, you wouldn't like what's in them. But I feel I don't like what's in them regardless of what I keep stating. So I would like to argue for the likes of cannabis and psilocybin mushrooms to be brought in for more checks or on treatments, basically, where it can cure depression, it can cure psychosis, it can cure CBD, for example, is a fine example of a substance that can cure psychotic episodes with a small dab of it. We're seeing that young David syndrome girl where it's cured her the David syndrome. I don't remember her name unfortunately, but her mother was fighting off about it for a long time, getting the Charlotte's Web over, and that's to speak for us Irish as well. I know there's 120 to 140 in our community, but we've been working to basically maintain the cannabis ethic flow for ourselves. So we've been challenging the status quo, but we believe it's the right law to challenge because we feel it's unjust. We feel we have a right to it, and in the name of God, I would say, and I'm not even a man of God in the sense you think I love or revere God, I get down and pray every day. I may believe it, I may not, but the point is, we are given God-given rights, and God-given rights mean, and that's under the Constitution as well, and we have a right to healthy medicine under the Constitution, so I believe cannabis is a medicine. Without a shadow of a doubt, for me, I've always felt medicinal, but I haven't found it in recent months, but I hope to get in the future. And you can say that can inflame thoughts, it can create abrupt or corrupt thoughts, it can turn you evil. It's all about how the treatment of the plant and the self is in this situation. But that's not to go off that in too much of a slant. It's to say that things come together in their own time. And when people have requests, please respect them. So my request is once again to try and get cannabis legalised in this country, or take the restrictions away from where there is any form of fear around the legality system of what you might refrain cannabis for the use of someone else's boundaries, basically. And that's one man's boundaries against another's. I'm telling you, you should not be able to infringe on another man's boundaries when he's not harming anyone else. And that should be the fundamental law. That should be the fundamental law. And cannabis doesn't harm, it heals. Thirdly, cannabis can lead to mental health problems. Apparently it can, but leave that in the hands of the person who's experimenting for themselves. They'll learn hard lessons or they'll learn light lessons, and that's to say that cannabis can harm, but it'll teach you lessons itself if it doesn't want you smoking it. I don't really want to say it on what it might go against it a little bit, but this is what I've learned. That I've had times when cannabis wanted me to give my attention to other things, study time for school, study for learning, whatever it is. And this is also another lesson left for each individual. This is why it's encouraging each individual to become more conscious, and that's to tap into the eye. That's my recommendation right nowadays, to understand the simple lesson is there is a whole here, a whole form of existence, a whole existence. I'm only one part of it, but within my singular whole, and I'm not talking about my asshole now, excuse the language please, because I really am, but I'm talking about in the whole, in the little branch on the tree, it's the whole tree. That's the same for the human being. Within the whole is like the whole of existence resides within me. So it's about catering, getting to know that part of yourself, and that's when you really get to know the I, the true I, the I that is, not the I that is my name, is my personality, is my dilemma, is my instinct, but the I that is, and that's the I that sees largely. And that's not even to bring spiritual eye into it, it's to say that I see what I see, but it's when I see it that counts, kind of thing. And that's to say that it's not that you are not the I, it's that you're the I seeing. And it's not to say that you aren't I or us or it or there or anything else. It's that I pervade with the I, because the I pervades all is what I'm saying. So when you get to know the I pervades all, and that's how you find a lot of people learn to find peace with existence rather than individuals or groups where they might feel bullied or vindicated or might want to spend time on their own. And I don't think there's any problems with that for those who feel the need to do it, but they will be outcast by society. And in saying that, those who are outcast, I wish it was a door back in for them. But the other thing I wanted to talk about today is, as well, is an introductory measure to, and this is all I'm going to say before I finish off this video, is an introductory measure. If anyone has any ideas to ping them through to me, how to free up people who are responsible for serious crimes from their crimes. Do you think it's a matter of work adequate, then work on themselves, then doing therapies, then coming through confrontal lines of society? What do you think it is to get everyone on this planet free and happy and in the name of heaven? Thank you.